Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the PB Political Podcast. I'm Eshan Pokhrel.
I'm Mike Bodeker.
And I'm Myles Gollop.
And we are here for the final time before Election Day, doing the final Election Day preview episode. So what we're going to do here is go through all of the top four candidates, so Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, Chase Oliver, and Jill Stein. Just a quick run through of what their platform is, and a little bit about where they're coming from on the political spectrum. We're going to go through, just really recap the big moments of this whole election cycle, starting about 2 years ago when Trump got his Mar-a-Lago residence raided by the FBI, to Joe Biden not running again, everything. And then finally, we're going to end it with our predictions for what's going to happen on Tuesday. So we made it, guys. Last episode before 2024. How are we feeling? Just general vibe check from everybody.
Oh, where to start, dude? This is crazy. It almost feels kind of surreal because it's been a couple of years in the making. I feel like, this is obviously our second general election that we've covered here as PB Political, which hopefully that means we're better than we were 4 years ago.
So we'll see.
To be determined on that, I suppose. But this election, I think, is even crazier than 2020 or anything that we could have possibly even imagined. I feel pretty good about it, though, but I think everybody is collectively as a society, everybody's kind of on edge. Nobody really knows what to expect. And it's kind of been projected as much closer than any election that we've seen in a long, long time. Kind of gives me Bush Gore 2000 vibes, even though obviously none of us were alive for that. But that's kind of what I feel like this is kind of turning into.
All right, Myles?
Yeah, I cannot believe that we're finally here. We know the election's been coming for so long now. Like Michael said, it's a couple of years in the making. But it's actually here. It's 2 days away. And one thing I do every day before I start the day is I check the polls. I check the biggest stories in the news, especially regarding the election. And I've been doing that now since I was interning in D.C., which was 2 summers ago, and some change. So, I've been invested in this for a while. And now it's basically, speaking for myself, it's my Super Bowl. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but this is amazing. I cannot wait Tuesday evening to just sit back, order some food, and watch the election results pour in. Even if we don't know the outright winner, I'm sure we'll have a pretty good idea. And that's basically my thoughts.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this. This has been like you said, so 2 years ago, at that point when you were interning, I was graduating high school. I already graduated high school. I was about to starting college. At this point now, we are I'm about only a calendar year away from graduating. So it's kind of crazy that we had it's already here. So I'm really excited. Yeah, it's going to be absolutely fascinating. One way or the other, we're going to have a very interesting election, and it's going to be just one for the ages, it seems like. But who is contesting the election? That's what we're going to start with. We'll go ahead and start with Kamala. Actually, we'll start with Donald Trump because this is first pulled up on my computer here. So Donald Trump, obviously, the Republican candidate for president, former president from 2017 to 2021. His platform is called Agenda 47, which is just kind of funny. I don't know. It's a photo of him saluting in the background, which is great. He has 20 core promises, it seems like, to make America great again. The other thing about Trump, I think it's just funny that he was able to just reuse all of his 2016 merch and stuff and really just feed back into the Make America Great Again thing, which is kind of unique. Most importantly for Trump, he's been heavy on immigration and heavy on the economy. And as a Republican president, I think those are the core tenets you're going to hit every single time, right? So the first bullet point here is seal the border and stop the migrant invasion. That's the quote. Carry out deportations, end inflation. That's number 3. Make America the dominant energy producer. Tax cuts, stopping World War III. Again, more migrant things. Stop the migrant crime epidemic. And then some other stuff like cancel the electric vehicle mandate and cut regulations. Fight for and protect Social Security and Medicare. And then he added some stuff. So he has deport pro-Hamas radicals and make our college campuses safe and patriotic. I hadn't seen that one. And then he has again, like another cultural issue, keep men out of women's sports, things like that. So the general vibe, very much more, I think more to the right this time. Trump's campaign, I think he's not 2016 where he was definitely a provocative person, but he's not like, he's still kind of moderating. He's still kind of, he's still being seen as the businessman who can fix the problem. Now he's kind of a little bit more culturally involved and after being president. And yeah, I mean, I think everybody kind of knows a little bit about Trump. So Bodeker, anything like you want to point out specifically about Trump? Because he does get misconstrued a lot in the media. So is there anything that you feel like is important to?
I think that an important part of discussing Trump's platform is that Trump's platform in itself is not traditional. If we were looking at, Romney 12 or Bush 04 or McCain 08, we haven't seen a Republican candidate have a platform like this because it's kind of all over the place. It's not necessarily something that, maybe like Mike Lee, who's one of the more conservative members of the Senate, would be like, this is everything that I've ever wanted. It's kind of, an amalgamation of maybe some more left-leaning stuff, even if it's center-left, in terms of, protecting Social Security and Medicare. A lot of conservatives against Social Security and Medicare, the retirement age, stuff like that. Same-day voting, Trump kind of endorsing, a lot of these early voting and similar things. That's something that he himself has backed up on in terms of he was very against that 4 and 8 years ago. Rebuilding our cities, I think, is an interesting one, including D.C. I think that's an appeal to urban voters. As a resident of D.C., I am very much pro the idea of, trying to make D.C. as great as possible. I think that's a great idea. Thank you for that, Mr. Former President. But I think a lot of it is both traditional Trump and stuff that, like you said, with him being a businessman, you pick up stuff along the way. And I think that that's kind of what he's done.
All right, Cam?
Yeah. Oh, Cam's here, you said?
Oh, sorry, I meant Myles. I said Cam. My bad.
Oh, yeah.
that's muscle memory, I guess, for me.
Sorry. I'm driving right now, so I didn't know if maybe you can join without me seeing. But
very good, yeah.
For Trump's platform at surface level, it looks good. Like most of those promises are good conservative principles. I would vote for a candidate like that. But in this election, it's not all about specific policy. What's on the ballot is, I would say, Trump's personality and his character. So it's interesting to see how that's going to play out in voters' minds. Whether is it going to come down to the economy and immigration, which Trump hammers so much, or is it going to be, I guess, what many would say the threat to democracy that Donald Trump is? I can analyze each of the 20, but Mr. Bodeker did a pretty great job. So that's about my thoughts.
Yeah, and I think it's important, like, for anybody that's like looking at Trump. You can look at what he did in this first administration, and there's obviously, if he does win again, there's going to be differences from the first to second, obviously. But a lot of the things that he says are more than anything just provocative. A lot of this stuff aren't things that he's able to do as president. So there's a lot of like, what is he saying versus what can he do that goes on with Trump. And I think voters are a little bit more aware of that now. There's a big section of Trump voters that are like, yeah, he says crazy things, but I don't think he can actually do them. Like that's a large part of the population. So I mean, like, it's a real phenomenon that's around now, and I think he's actually gonna be able to work to his advantage possibly. Let's go ahead and move on to Kamala Harris. So Kamala Harris, for the longest time, did not have a page for her issues or her platform. They added this page after a lot of pushback on the very fair question of, what do you believe? And the answer is pretty simple. The Harris campaign has hit the one winning issue Democrats have every time and time again: access to abortion. Trump bragged about putting the justices on the Supreme Court that overturned Roe versus Wade. Now he's a little bit shifted his position to kind of be more pro abortion. Although I think we can all agree Trump as a person is and we've said it here, he's more than likely very pro-choice as an individual. However, yes. the base goes another way. So Harris actually starts her platform page with a lot of economic issues, and I think that could be smart. So Biden's economy has been dragged by every poll ever. No one really likes Biden's economy. People really liked the Obama leading into Trump economy because gas was cheap more than anything, but also in fairness, there has been over 20% inflation over the last 4 years, year over year, from 2019 here. So. And that's not all on Biden, obviously. It's COVID and Trump spending and then Biden's, it's a lot of things. But it definitely makes it harder for Harris to win on the issue of the economy. And, yeah, she has very populist economic positions on her website, cutting tax for middle-class families, investing in small businesses, like tax credits, supporting American innovation. She's very pro-union, or she's campaigned as being pro-union. I think the UAW endorsed her. I don't think the Teamsters endorsed her. So they're two big unions. Investing in child care and then child tax credit, big part of the agenda if she does win, I'm sure. And lowering energy costs. I mean, gas prices have been up about $1.50 at least since 2019 on a gallon. So probably a good thing to hit. Again, most importantly for Kamala, though, has been the abortion question. And for every Democrat in the country, you've seen places like Kansas, Ohio, Kentucky, I believe, too, protected abortion. I don't know if it was Kentucky. Kansas and Ohio did, for sure. So very conservative states federally. The people in those states want to protect the right to an abortion. Arizona has a ballot issue. Florida has a ballot initiative coming up. So there's a lot of those coming around the country. And I think that's going to be the animating issue for any Harris voter, at least for many women voters, for any young voters. It's going to be that. And yeah, Bodeker, I'm going to stop talking, Bodeker. What do y'all think about the Kamala Harris platform?
Well, let me kind of go through hers a little bit. That's Chase Oliver's. We'll get to him. But Kamala Harris has cut taxes for working people, which is probably a more conservative principle, I would say. Lower food and grocery costs, lower healthcare costs, prescription drug costs, energy costs, lowering costs are protecting consumers from fees and fraud. I would say that that's more of a left labor-leaning position than Trump. I also could see like a Trump-Vance administration doing stuff with that because I think Trump and Vance are kind of pragmatic in that way. Help Americans buy a home and afford rent. Invest in small businesses, invest in American innovation and industrial strength, powered by American workers. That's basically Trump's platform. That's basically a page ripped straight out of the Trump book. You would not be surprised to see that on Trump's platform. To create security opportunity for workers and build a care economy, strengthen opportunity communities across America. Again, I think that's probably a Trump's platform as well. Protect Americans' ability to retire with dignity, and snuck in there in the last one is make our tax code more fair and promote growth. I think I can kind of see why that one was kind of snuck towards the end, considering that the first point is cutting taxes for working people, and the bottom is making taxes more fair. Obviously, the first point in Chapter 1 is more of a conservative-leaning position, and I think the bottom is more of the Democratic-leaning position that maybe Harris didn't quite want to see, because I think she's kind of known for that. I think she's known for being very progressive. Whether, how she wants to be portrayed obviously is more moderate.
Well, it's interesting because it's not even necessarily true. It's kind of just like the Kamala Harris is a California Democrat. She did vote very progressive in the Senate. But I think that's what I was getting to. So, I think she did have the record in, what was it, 2019 or 2020 of being the most progressive senator.
Yeah. And obviously, who knows where she's at now, because, she has been attacked by
No one knows.
A lot of conservatives for changing a lot of her policy positions. But it's certain that she's obviously moved to the center to try to appeal to independents in the Rust Belt and Sun Belt. So I think it's an interesting plan. I think, obviously she didn't have it up for a super long time, but I think that it's something that can appeal to a lot of people. So I don't think it's necessarily something that turns a lot of Americans off.
Yeah, Vice President Harris's campaign, specific policy has been murky, very questionable. I mean, like Eshan, like you said, it took a very long time to get concrete details about what she wanted to do in the presidency. Way too long. Avoiding interviews. Even to this day, there's still been very few nationally televised interviews with the vice president. It doesn't help that we only had one debate as well. So, if I were to ask a typical Harris supporter, like, why do you support this candidate? I doubt I would get an answer quite like Bodeker, where he went through each reason or what she's running on. And Eshan, kind of like what you alluded to, some would say this election is a referendum on abortion. And that's kind of what she's been trying to push the most, especially if you follow her on Twitter. She's like, we got to protect women's rights. I will protect abortion. I will restore Roe v. Wade. And that is a large percentage of her base that feel like lose their rights if Donald Trump's elected. And that's who she's trying to appeal to.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
That's what makes this election so tight. Yeah, Eshan, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, that's, like, a large part. I mean, honestly, if you walk around Alabama and if it's, like, if it's a younger voter, 100% the answer is abortion. If it's an older voter, you might get a mix of abortion and, like, I don't like Trump as a person. I don't think anyone's going to vote for Kamala Harris on, like, her business fundamentals. I think it's obvious, like, she doesn't have a set values, like a value set that's been consistent other than like abortion and then maybe support for unions, maybe labor support, but yeah.
You got the wheels turning in me a little bit. So I have noticed that on some very important issues, she tries not to lean one way or the other. Like, for example, the war in Gaza. I saw today, actually shortly before listening to the podcast, that she has different ads in Michigan than she does in Pennsylvania, because obviously Michigan has such a high Muslim
Arab American
population. Yes, exactly. So there's where she's trying to portray herself as more pro-Palestinian or anti-war, but then in Pennsylvania, where there's the high Jewish population, she's talking a lot of pro-Israel quotes are being circulated. So it's interesting how she's kind of like I would call her a chameleon, where she just blends in with whatever helps her the most. Now, Donald Trump, he's the same way. So I'm not saying he's any better than her. But I don't really know what Harris feels about certain things. Like you said, in the Senate, she was one of the most progressive senators, if not the most. But now she's straight up, I can see some saying she's a centrist. I think she leans more towards the left, obviously. But it's interesting. I'd say that's the way I think right now.
I genuinely.
Let me. I was going to add this in too. Is that Pew released the top issues for voters in the 2024 election, and this is dated September 9th. So take it with a pinch of salt. But 81% of voters said that the top issue was the economy. Then the next issue was healthcare. The next was actually Supreme Court appointments was an important issue to a lot of voters. Maybe that's due to the health of Sonia Sotomayor, and then potentially even the age of Justices Alito and Thomas. Foreign policy, immigration, and then violent crime are both tied. So I think that obviously Trump wins on the economy probably.
Although it's been close. There's been a lot of polling. I don't know what it's been very close, and that's a very good sign for the Harris campaign. The fact that she's competitive on the economy question is something that, I mean, frankly, she shouldn't be. There's no reason for her to be. But also, she's been messaging it very well. The small business tax credit idea, very good messaging. Just for example, that's a perfect message for anybody that's yeah.
Well, the thing is, too, is I was going to mention, too, with you mentioned the narrowing on the economy. I will say that maybe this is my shot at the New York Times Siena poll, but the New York Times Siena poll is, they're a reputable pollster, but I don't necessarily trust their margins in this. In terms of, they had Trump up 13 on the economy and as of mid-September, and then as of late October, that lead had about halved. I would probably give Trump a couple more points on the edge there. But I think that even, if you look at healthcare, I think Harris is going to win on healthcare. Democrats just are more successful in healthcare. Supreme Court appointments is maybe the issue is more important to Harris supporters, but I feel like independents also maybe Harris will win narrowly on Supreme Court appointments. Foreign policy, I think, is something that Trump could be really, really successful on, given that I think it's 70% of Trump supporters say that foreign policy is an important part of their vote versus 54% of Harris supporters. So I think that Trump's edge on foreign policy could be really helpful too. Plus, like Myles just mentioned, the frustration of Arab American voters in Michigan, with the Biden administration's kind of flip-flopping on the issue with Israel and Hamas. I think that could really come back to hurt Vice President Harris in a state where, 2% of the population isn't a ton, but if they're staying home or they're running for Jill Stein,
it's like 200,000 voters. 200,000 voters, I think. So
that is a lot of voters
in Michigan. Yeah, because Michigan's so close every year that they could tilt the balance. So 2% of the population, but a very energized 2% of the population, right?
So.
Yeah, and let's So those are the two main candidates. Let's go to the third parties. We'll go into this really quickly because there's not too much going on. And obviously, there's nobody expecting a win for either of these candidates. Let's start with Chase Oliver, the Libertarian candidate. I guess we'll start with him just because Libertarians are the most widespread third party. They have ballot access across the United States this election. Chase Oliver, very basic libertarian argument, not necessarily my favorite libertarian thinker. There's a couple of cool ones from the history books, but Chase Oliver is a former Democrat who moved to the Libertarian Party, and he won a very contested convention over a more conservative leaning candidate. So there's a lot of strife within the Libertarian Party about that, but his message is very baseline libertarian. Stop printing money to lower, eventually adjust cost of living and inflation. The same thing with the economy. Just honestly, just the money printer, stop the money printer, end the Federal Reserve, immigration, pro-immigration, but then obviously pro-legal immigration, streamlining immigration processes to take care of the loads. Healthcare, I don't. There's things like a lot of free market economics. Nothing crazy. He does support term limits, which is kind of interesting to me because I feel like, in theory, I think term limits are kind of anti-liberty because if you're sending the same person over and over again, you kind of like them, but it doesn't really matter. He's very pro-nuclear, so that's cool. Big nuclear energy guy over here, and just a lot of stuff like more data privacy, no more FISA, spying on Americans thanks to the Patriot Act, things like that. And the Department of Education, which is another thing that the Trump campaign has adopted. And he doesn't really talk about it much, but he does mention it more than I would expect him to, that's a whole complicated process that could lead to more benefits, or could lead to more harm. No one really knows. So, quickly, Chase Oliver, any thoughts from y'all? And how much do y'all think he's going to get in support? I think he's going to get 1.5 this year. I don't think the Libertarians are going to do well this year at all.
Let me go ahead and say I agree with 1.5%. I think he'll, with a 0.25% margin of error in one direction or the other, between 1.25% and 1.75%. But again, you're right. Chase Oliver, kind of bog standard libertarian playbook here. That being said, I think a lot of it is palatable to a lot of Americans, considering that a lot of people are frustrated with the way the government is running. Basically, whoever's in power, people aren't happy. So I think what a lot of Chase Oliver and the Libertarians are kind of getting at speaks to a lot of people. I don't think it will end up turning a corner or influencing the election. I think Jill Stein has more of a chance of kind of hurting Kamala Harris than Chase Oliver does Trump. Because Chase Oliver, I think, would have been a threat in maybe Georgia or North Carolina and maybe more of the southern Sunbelt states.
He's from Georgia.
Exactly. Chase Oliver being from Georgia, I think Trump has enough of a padding in Georgia and will have enough of a padding where Chase Oliver doesn't really matter.
Yeah, Myles?
Yeah, I think Chase Oliver is running a terrible campaign. And I don't really know much about his policy, but the reason I say it's a terrible campaign is I barely know anything about the guy. I've seen the name. I saw him on the ballot when I was voting, but maybe he's being suppressed by the mainstream media. That's got to be a portion of it. But I don't know who this guy is. So 1.5% or within a 0.25% margin of error, that sounds about right. I don't even know if he's really worth discussing. I saw he was going to be on a podcast today. I was like, oh, shoot, I don't know anything about this guy. So I doubt it really impacts the election.
Yeah, and one thing, so Chase Oliver became, prominent, you could say, because he's the reason that, not he's the reason, because Raphael Warnock did win his election, but he's the reason that race went to a runoff in Georgia in the 2022 elections, the Senate election in Georgia. It was Raphael Warnock, who is now the senator, Herschel Walker, and then Chase Oliver. So he actually got 2% of the vote. He kept it from being an outright victory, and then that led to the double the double runoff in Georgia where both senators were elected were Democrats. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah, it's interesting for him. So
I think Gary John. I also meant to mention this. Gary Johnson in 2016. I knew the name. I knew his platform. Like, he did a good job, and he got a decent percentage of the vote in 2016. Mr. Oliver, he's not near that level. So I don't think there will be a big impact on the election, like I said earlier.
Yeah, I think nothing. I don't think people are expecting too much from Chase Oliver this time around. We'll go ahead and move to Jill Stein, who actually, like Bodeker was saying, there's a lot of potential for Jill Stein to cause havoc, especially in the state of Michigan. So Jill Stein, the Green Party nominee. The Green Party is typically the more progressive, a little bit farther to the left than the Democratic Party. Jill Stein I think she kind of created the idea of the Green New Deal. I don't know if that's true. She definitely made it like a point for every election she's ran in. She's a doctor. She's ran for president a couple times. She's been like the Green Party standard bearer for a while. Nothing crazy on her platforms, just a more democratic socialism type vibe with the Green Party. The biggest thing, and this is something with the Libertarians too. Actually, the Libertarians are more steadfast on this. Libertarians are very anti-foreign aid. Jill Stein has made a big, I guess, and I think Jill Stein has been like the only candidate in this space actively kind of criticizing Israel for the way they've prosecuted the war in Gaza against Hamas. I think there's valid concerns there. The way Jill Stein says it, that was really crazy, and I think it turns a lot of people off. But I don't blame Arab Americans in Michigan for either voting for Jill Stein or for Chase Oliver, because they're the only two that are actively speaking out against, whatever's going on in the Middle East, in the sense that we shouldn't be helping anybody over there. And I think that resonates. Again, no one is voting for Jill Stein for her economic policy. People might be voting for Jill Stein for the Green New Deal. I don't even know if that's true, because the Democrats have kind of adopted that slowly. But people will be voting for Jill Stein because of her foreign policy platform. And I don't know if it's going to, and we'll reveal our predictions kind of soon. It's kind of going kind of long. We'll wrap up these candidate talks soon. But Jill Stein will definitely take away votes from Kamala Harris in Michigan. And will it be enough? I don't know. But what do y'all think about her campaign?
Again, Jill Stein's not super, well, she might make herself super, super relevant, but her platform, the real Green New Deal, demilitarization, basically regulating agriculture and food systems, very, very pro-immigration, very, very pro-social justice, very, very pro, basically changing up the police system and criminal justice reform. She's very, very pro-democracy. I would assume that probably means, getting rid of the Electoral College, stuff like that. Healthcare, more government mandate, government-led healthcare. Housing crisis. I would assume that would be banning corporations buying single-family homes and stuff like that, which I think is actually resonating in popularity.
It's a mainstream. Yeah, that's something that's actually been trying to be pushed through Congress right now.
Yeah. Labor, very, very pro-labor, and the people's economy, the Economic Bill of Rights, establishing the rights to a living wage job, guaranteed livable income, housing, health care, child care, lifelong education, secure retirement, utilities, health, food, and clean water.
So pretty basic, progressive, yeah. Myles, go ahead.
Well, Jill Stein, she does have name recognition somewhat. She ran in 2016. A lot of people attributed Hillary Clinton's loss partially to Jill Stein.
Those people are cowards.
She's for sure the furthest left candidate out of the four that we've discussed so far. The thing is, though, nobody that's somewhere in the center or leans right is going to vote for her. She's only going to take votes from the left. She has an extremist position on Gaza, and that's just overall it's not a popular position in the United States. It's a very small percentage of the electorate that agree with her on that and a lot of her other very socialist policies that she advocates for. So she is doing a disservice to the Democratic Party. I know she's not a Democrat, but if she really wants to help Palestinians in the way that she describes, then she should drop out of the race entirely.
All right,
That's
so
my thoughts on Jill Stein.
I'm going to push back on that a little bit, not because I am going to vote for Jill Stein or really agree with her or anything, but I do think I don't think that. So it seems pretty clear that Kamala Harris is not going to be better for any Palestinian than Donald Trump will be. It's probably going to be the same. Every president's pretty much the same on this issue. So for that reason, I do think Jill Stein's rhetoric is very over the top in times. But it's a crazy situation, admittedly. I think we can all agree. It's a wild situation. It's an unprecedented situation across the board on all sides of the spectrum. That being said, do you guys think she's going to impact results in Michigan? And again, let's make it clear right now. Jill Stein herself will not be the reason either candidate wins or loses the election. She was not the reason Hillary Clinton lost. Hillary Clinton lost because she's incompetent and bad at her job, and she was a failed candidate. So that's me airing out the Hillary Clinton criticism. But do you all think that she's going to make a difference in Michigan, which is where most likely she could have an impact?
Yeah.
I
trying to
think you summed it well.
a little bit because I am driving. Could you repeat part of that question?
I was just saying,
beginning part?
Do you think that Jill Stein's going to make a real impact in the state of Michigan, or any state, but most likely Michigan, in this election?
Let me say, I think that you summed up pretty perfectly, Sean. I think that in the same way that Hillary losing in 2016 was not Jill Stein's fault, it was Hillary Clinton's fault. I think if Kamala Harris loses in 2024, I don't think it's Jill Stein's fault. I think it's Kamala Harris's fault for, you could say a lot of things, and if even if Kamala Harris wins, Jill Stein was not Trump's reason. There are other underlying factors there.
Yeah. Myles?
Yeah. I understand the pushback saying that it's not any candidate's fault that one candidate doesn't win. At the end of the day, it's up to the American people, and they're going to choose who they think the best candidate is. But Jill Stein takes votes directly to Kamala Harris. Now, that is Kamala Harris's fault. If she loses, she lost for a reason. But Jill Stein running, she doesn't actually think she's going to win. Her goal is not to win the presidency; it's to make a point. And that's why I just don't see why anybody would vote for her. But I mean, I get it. It's a protest vote. However, and also I don't think it's going to swing the election. I just think it might make it tighter than what it already is, or maybe further apart. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I don't think she's going to have I don't think you're going to see a 10% Jill Stein vote anywhere. But it could be interesting. Let's move on from the candidates. Those are the big four candidates. We didn't mention any of the smaller candidates, but we had some requests on, covering like who these people are. Hopefully we did that really well. So let's move on. I don't even know. Do you guys want to do a timeline of the election? Do you want to go to the predictions? Go into the fun stuff.
Let's go straight into the fun stuff.
Let's do the predictions.
Let's get straight in it. All right. So 2024 presidential election predictions. For those of you who are interested, we have had releases of our House and governor's forecasts. We'll have a Senate forecast and a presidential. I guess the presidential is kind of being revealed today when I'm talking, but we'll have all the four election forecasts out on pppolitical.com. So check those out. Check the reasonings out for why our forecast writers went with what they went with. So without further ado, who wants to go first? I'm not going to go first.
Myles, you go first.
Okay, fine. All right. Are we going? You want me to go swing state by swing state, or just overall prediction?
Just go overall, and then whatever you think is like the biggest, like what if there's any shocks, any swing state shot, anything like you think is necessary, important, go ahead with that. Right. But overall result first.
I will. Well, let me start with I agree with what the pundits are saying, and that it's going to be the closest election of our generation. It is so close. Every single day, the polls look different. When I say different, I might say Trump +1 one day in some states, and then the next day it'll say Harris +1. But regardless of who's up, it's close. And it's probably going to come down to the 7 swing states that we've talked about so much, which are Arizona, Nevada, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Carolina, and Georgia. I do believe that North Carolina, Georgia, I'm certain those are going to go to Donald Trump. Those are two typically red-leaning states. And Georgia, I do believe that was an anomaly that happened recently. I believe those do go to Trump. I don't know if we're doing margins, but I think he'll. 3%. Maybe that's a bold take. I don't know.
You said Georgia by 3%?
Arizona, yes.
Okay.
That is one of my predictions.
Okay.
Also, North Carolina, he'll probably win by around the same margins, somewhere between 3 and 5 is what I would expect. Now, Nevada is a very interesting case. I know you and I were texting about that earlier. The last time I went red was 2004, but it's been a competitive state since then. I've talked to Nevada voters, interestingly enough, and they feel as if it's going to go red. And by the way, it's not red voters that I'm talking to. They just it's a feeling. And the polling, I saw one where he's up by 6 points. I know and polls are not the top indicators of who's going to win, or maybe they are, but they're not always reliable. And I'm going to go Trump wins that state. I don't mean to keep talking about Nevada. It's not going to be probably who decides. It's not going to decide the election. I do think Trump wins Arizona, Nevada, and it's going to come down to those 3 states: Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, the Midwest. And in those 3, I've done a lot of thinking, and this is, I guess, my final prediction. Michigan seems the bluest. It'll be very close, within 1 point. But give me Kamala Harris to win the state of Michigan. Wisconsin, I feel the exact same. Wisconsin may come down to just tens of thousands of votes. I'm going to go with Kamala Harris again. But in Pennsylvania, Trump has made a lot of ground in the past year. He's become very popular there. And based on the polling I've seen and just the overall feeling that I get, because a lot of predictions it is feelings, as much as we don't want to admit that. I'm going to say Donald Trump wins Pennsylvania and wins the presidency, becoming our second ever 2-term non-consecutive president.
Okay, that's interesting, Bodeker. How about you?
All right, you're gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna see how rapid fire I can go. RCP has they have 12 battlegrounds, so I may go even further, and I'm
12.
gonna try and see if I can give some margins.
Okay. Everybody get a
Georgia.
pen at home. Everybody write this down.
Give me Trump in Georgia by 2.5.
Okay.
Give me Trump in North Carolina by 2. Actually, I'm going to skip Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin. Give me Trump in Arizona by 2. Give me in Minnesota. This is listed as a battleground. Harris is up 4.8 in RCP. Give me Harris by 6 in Minnesota. Ohio, give me Trump by 8 in Ohio.
That's a battleground on listing?
Yeah, it's Trump 7.1 in RCP.
Don't worry, Minnesota and Ohio will not switch parties, most likely.
No.
Don't worry, guys.
I've seen some conservative hopium on Minnesota flipping red this
not
cycle.
happening.
It
not
won't.
happening.
It's the same. It's the same as kind of left wing hopium on Texas, which I will get to here.
Yeah.
Give me a Trump by 8 in Ohio. Give me Trump by 0.5 point in Nevada. Texas is on here. Give me Trump by 8 in Texas to actually improve back on his margins.
Yeah, much better. 2.5 points.
Yeah, give me Trump by 8 in Texas. Give me Harris by 3 in New Hampshire. And give me Harris by 5 in Virginia.
Is New Mexico listed on that? People have been trying to the Republicans have been saying New Mexico.
Is not listed.
But New Mexico was a plus 20 Biden state.
Give me in New Mexico. I'll take Harris by probably.
It's not
11.
gonna flip. But there's been a lot of consternation, because Trump's having his last rally in New Mexico for whatever reason. We talked about this last week. For whatever reason, he's doing that. But I mean, New Mexico's a Democratic state. Biden won it with 11 points. So yeah, all right. Go back to your final 3.
Final 3. Pennsylvania. I might leave that one to last one. Wisconsin. Give me. Harris is up by 0.3 in RCP, but also Republicans are statistically underpolled in Wisconsin. And the polls in Wisconsin were off by 6 points the last time Trump was on the ballot, basically both times. Give me Trump in Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Oh, I'm going to go into votes, not percent. Give me Trump in Wisconsin by...
You go by
22,000 votes.
You're saying numbers. That's crazy. By votes is wild.
I'm swapping my prediction on Wisconsin. I feel the same as Bodeker.
Okay.
Give me Trump.
Now,
Okay.
I will say, I think the Arab Americans will come through for Harris in Michigan.
You think so?
Give me,
Okay.
yeah, give me Harris in Michigan. I know you're not supposed to split the blue wall. I'm doing it. Don't care. Eat your heart out, Nate Silver. I'm doing it. Give me Harris by 30,000 votes in Michigan. I know Michigan underpolls Republicans, and I'm gonna sound like an idiot if Trump wins the state by 2, but
you're saying it with your chest, and you have to respect that.
And then give me Trump in Pennsylvania by 45,000 votes.
Okay, so Bodeker's map with all states that are not competitive going the way they probably will, along with Maine second and Nebraska second, going for Trump and Harris respectively.
Yeah, they're correct.
Has Harris at 241 electoral votes, Trump at 297. So resound, and that's as big of a mandate as Trump's going to get to win. I did not.
And that was what, 40,000 votes, basically.
Yeah, like 60,000 maybe.
Oh,
I did not count.
votes.
I did not count yours, Miles. Do you have can you go through your swing states again? So you had Wisconsin for Trump, Pennsylvania for Trump, Nevada for Trump,
Yes.
Arizona
for Trump.
Georgia.
Basically every single swing state except for Michigan.
Okay, so in that case,
Kind of a bullish prediction.
yeah, in that case you have about the same. You have the same map. Okay, the same map then. So 241, 297. I guess it's my turn. So this is going to be a little sneak peek into my presidential forecast. My first two forecasts have went for Harris. My last one was actually the first one that I have left blank in two states, in Wisconsin and Nevada. I'm going to go through the swing states first, and I'm going to go through the Sun Belt first. I think we all agree. The Sun Belt, I just don't see the Sun Belt going back to Harris. I think if there's another candidate in those shoes, it's possible to build on the genuine enthusiasm Biden did have in 2020 in Georgia. I don't think they're going to replicate that. I think the Georgia Republican Party is just better right now. I think they're just stronger right now. I think they're going to turn them out. So I got Georgia going to Trump. North Carolina, I don't really see it this year, although I could see it happening. And if that happens, if North Carolina shifts to Harris, I don't think it will. If it does happen, then that means that the Democratic Party is fully the party of the college-educated white voter, which is something that they don't want to be just for demographic reasons. But I wouldn't be surprised, but I do think Trump's going to win North Carolina as well. Trump's going to win Florida, not a swing state. Trump's going to win Texas. I don't think it'll be 8 points. I think it'll be a little bit closer. I think the Senate race is going to keep it close, but Trump is going to win, and they're going to call it on election night. No problem there. Arizona, I got Trump. I think there's a lot of Trump Gallego voters. That's the Senate candidate, the Democratic candidate. There's a lot of people there. People don't I just don't think that Harris has done enough there. I'm going to take Trump there. Nevada, I'm going to take Harris just because Nevada, we always see this. Nevada's going to go red. It looks good. It looks better for Republicans this time around, right? Like the early vote numbers look really good in Nevada, or at least better. But it wasn't the same. I mean, so Biden did only win it by 30,000 votes. That is 2 points on the margin of the state. But I think the service economy that they have is going to come in, the union economy that they have with the trade worker, everything that they have, the service, Vegas work. I think they're going to come in and just give Harris a win. It's going to be close, but I think Nevada's going to Harris. And then the Rust Belt, so Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. I'm going to say, I think Michigan, I agree. I don't think Arab Americans are going to come through, but I don't think it's going to matter. I think the Detroit area voters are going to save the day for the Harris campaign in Michigan. I don't know where those Arab American voters are voting. It might be a split between Trump and Stein, Trump or stay home, Stein and stay, whatever it is. I think that it's going to go to the Democrats, though. Michigan's going to go blue. I think Wisconsin's going to follow suit in a very, very close tie, or not tie, but very close contest, I should say, and also go blue. But I do think Pennsylvania is going to go to Trump. I think he's going to flip it. I think it's hard because Pennsylvania is not really the same as these other states. It is it's kind of it's kind of more of a northeastern state, right? It's not really I guess like the Rust Belt's more like Ohio, but they're grouped in there. Pennsylvania, I think it's going to come down to turnout in Pennsylvania. That's all it is. I think Pennsylvania is the most. It's going to be crazy divided. There's a reason everybody spends time there. One thing we just didn't mention, that Trump almost got just absolutely. Trump almost got shot on national television in Pennsylvania. I think that has an animating effect. I don't know how to explain that, like statistically or anything, but I think there's an effect there. He lost the state by under 100,000 votes last time. He won the state by, even less maybe. I think less than he lost it by. I think he's gonna flip it back. I got Trump going to Pennsylvania, and that leaves a final total of Harris 257, Trump 281, and I think Donald J. Trump will be the next president. Yeah, we all have Trump. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I think there's going to be... Wow. Yeah, we haven't seen the blue wall split in a long time, I don't believe. Which is... but it's very possible.
Any of y'all betting on this election? Anybody going to bet on it?
On Polymarket?
Well, they're Kalshi or however you say it. That's an app where you can do it now.
I am not betting on the election. I know people do it, though. I saw one of our friends in our group chat was saying that someone was asking, like, are you going to bet? And they were like, yeah, on Prize Picks. If it was on Prize Picks, I will.
Oh, my God. Shout out Prize Picks.
Shout out to Prize Picks, I guess. I don't gamble responsibly. Yeah, I don't plan on it. What about you, Myles?
No, I don't think so. That's the thing about this election. It's too close to call. Like, I don't feel confident enough to risk my financial future.
Fair enough, yeah.
On this election.
That's fair.
I ain't going to bet $10 when I bet on it. It's going to be a little bit more than that.
It's a very good point.
I just wanted to bring that up because I know the betting market, it's been a recent big topic of discussion.
No, it's fair.
I don't know how you guys felt about that.
Yeah, it's been.
Some people think it doesn't mean anything. Others think it's a great indicator who's going to win. Just wanted to put that out there before the podcast ended.
Yeah, it might be.
Well, I was going to just say, like, if I was a betting man, I'd bet on Trump. And looking at the early vote data, I know we haven't gone too much into specifics on early voting data, but in the battlegrounds, this election is whiter. And if it's more working class, I haven't seen the splits of that white vote, but if it is whiter and more working class, that is bad news for the Harris campaign and good news for the Trump campaign. Every swing state is statistically whiter in the battleground states, except for Nevada, which is 1 point less white, but it's less African-American and more Hispanic, which Hispanic voters are much more kind to Trump and Republicans than African-American voters are. And if African-American vote share is decreasing in a lot of these swing states, I think that's really bad news for Democrats, even if, and obviously when the black vote is probably going to swing by 4 to 5 points to Trump, I think that raises a lot of alarm bells. And I think that Election Day, too, will be a lot of white voters, specifically probably men who vote on Election Day. And we've already seen in Georgia some counties basically already beating their 2020 vote share, which is unbelievable, by the way. Election Day hasn't even happened yet.
Yeah, early voting is proving to be a success. This is a call for the Alabama State Legislature to enact early voting, which we do not have. So I'm driving to Huntsville. Yeah, I'm driving to Huntsville tomorrow night to vote Tuesday. But, yeah, all good points. The margins are interesting.
You can vote early.
You have to absentee or whatever, right?
Yeah, Alabama. Well, yeah, you can actually go to the county service.
Yeah, if you go to the service center. Yeah.
True. Vote in person.
That's true. I did that once. Yeah.
So they had the college student exception. Yeah, okay. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
No, you're good.
And the other thing I was going to say is Nate Silver brought this up, who I dissed like 5 minutes ago, but Nate Silver brought up herding with pollsters, and the pollsters are he basically accused pollsters of kind of editing their own internals to basically make this race look closer than whatever result they got. So I think he mentioned that like the likelihood of all of these polls being within 3 points of each other is like 1 in 970 trillion. So basically impossible, and that somebody is basically protecting their own rear ends when this election actually probably ends up being close. But also, like, do we think that there will be major polling error? That's a fun final question.
We're gonna see. Honestly, I don't think it'll be as bad as it was in 2016. I think that's impossible. I don't think that being a Trump supporter isn't as like people used to hide about being a Trump supporter. That doesn't happen anymore. That's not the case. It's much more normal. Like you guess normalized. It's not a big deal. It never was a big deal. It's not a big deal. Like to admit that, I guess is what I'm saying. But I still struggle to think. We were talking about this. We were texting about this. I struggle to think that they're going to be able to like find the new vote, like the energized, because like the Trump voters aren't. A lot of them aren't consistent voters. They vote when Trump's on the ballot. That's the reason you didn't see Doug Mastriano win the governorship in Pennsylvania, or Dr. Oz win, or Herschel Walker win. They vote for Trump. They don't vote for these other guys. If they come out, I think they will. I think they're going to come out. I don't think the polls are taking them into account. But I think everyone takes like a 2 to 3 point swing in the polls. They always give 2 to 3 points. They shift it a little bit to the right. Like personally, like internal, that's what I do. If I see a tie or like a +2, it's like in a swing state.
Only when Trump is involved. I used to
only
do
when
that
Trump's
for the
involved.
Republicans
Yeah.
too. But when Trump's involved, yeah. Okay, the final last question though, because we didn't address it in our predictions. Will Trump win the popular vote?
It's a wonderful question. Eshan, what do you think?
I think with
He's
this,
up 0.1 right now in RCP's average.
I think
0.1.
with this map, it's definitely more possible. I think it's going to come into voter enthusiasm. I think he will. I think he's going to win because of states like Texas, where you have a very competitive Senate race. States like Florida, where you have a very big ballot initiative alongside the vote. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people voting for. I think they have weed and they have abortion on the ballot. I think in Florida, they definitely have abortion. There's going to be a lot of people voting for Trump, but voting for abortion at the same time. That's a very real voter that exists. There's millions of those voters. So I do think he has a chance. I'm going to go ahead and just say yes, just because I think that, I don't know. I think that his margins across the country might just be enough. Hey, the dude almost got assassinated and sold T-shirts off it. It's hard to top that on a voter enthusiasm level. So I'm going to say yes. Myles, what do you think?
If you would have asked me while Biden was still in the race, I would have said absolutely Trump's going to win the popular vote. Like, there was a point over the summer, I'm sure you guys remember it, where it looked like it was inevitable that Donald Trump would be the next U.S. president and easily defeat Joe Biden. But now, I think the Harris variable, it's just so hard for a Republican to beat a Democrat nationally in a popular vote. I know the polls, actually, I would say mostly lean Trump in the ones I've seen. I don't know if I believe that or not. So just off what I've seen in the past, I'm going to say Harris narrowly wins the popular vote. I'm talking within 1 point. It's going to be very, very close. But I do think she will win the popular vote, which will be annoying if she does, because we're going to have to hear about it in the next 4 years. She won the popular vote. So hopefully that won't happen. Not to say I'm not endorsing Trump or anything. I don't want that to be split, where one person wins the popular vote and the other wins the electoral college.
Yeah. Bodeker, what do you think?
Well, I know RCP is not the end-all, be-all, and the knower of all things. 2020, general election, Trump versus Biden, pulled up right here. The final RCP average, I think was Biden's 7.2 is what it's showing me. Maybe I'm spreading misinformation. I'm sure someone will point it out if I am. The final result was Biden plus 4.5. So with a 2.7 point error, I don't think it will be that much this time. However, I think if Trump improves his margins in states like California, New York, obviously they're not in play. But if he's improving his margins by 5 or 10 points there, I think that's a lot of votes. If he makes up margins in Illinois, obviously if he does better in Texas, that's huge. If he does better in Florida, that's huge. Obviously he'll run up the margins in conservative-leaning states. I don't see Trump losing margins in a lot of states, I guess to put it that way.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's enough to swing him over the top, in my opinion. I don't want to underestimate him. Screw it. I'm going to say he wins the popular vote. I got to put a margin on it because I put a margin on everything else. Give me Trump winning the popular vote by 350,000.
Okay. That's probably about
What percentage would that likely be?
half. I don't even know. No, less than 0.5%. right? If there's
If I
150,
pull up the,
150 million people voted in 2020. I don't know.
Let me see. Let me pull up this real
All
quick.
right. While he's
Let me pull up the-
pulling that up, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up here, and we can end with that. So thank y'all for listening. This has been this is a long episode, kind of went a little longer, but it was fun. We want to get all the info out there and then just have a little bit of fun to end the cycle with. So I mean, yeah, 2024. What a year! What a campaign! It started with Trump getting indicted and raided, his house getting raided. He got charged with a bunch of things. He almost got shot. Biden, was forced out of the race. We didn't even mention Biden. He was forced out of the race. Kamala Harris was anointed. Might have been a mistake. We're gonna see. We're gonna find out in a couple of days. And now we have a Trump versus Kamala Harris matchup. Trump, like Myles said, could be the second president to ever serve 2 non-consecutive terms as the president of the United States. First being Grover Cleveland in the 1890s, right? So, 1890s. So, in the 1880s. So, that's about everything. Thank you all for listening. This election cycle has been a lot of fun. Bodeker, did you get the data on that one?
Yeah, so 300. Basically, I couldn't get I used the Cook political swingometer. Basically, it's the same turnout. Kind of just shifted white non-college grad vote to Trump to kind of get the margin right. In this one, it's almost a 400,000 vote victory for Trump. So it was 300 and something thousand, 85,000. And that gives Trump a 0.3% victory. So we're looking at probably 0.25%.
So we're basically right, yeah. Okay, wow. It's going to be close. Who knows? Hey, I'm very excited to listen to this on Thursday or Wednesday and find us all be wrong in one way or the other. So, yeah. Again, thank you all for listening, for supporting the website, the org throughout this election cycle. We're going to keep running through the election. We're going to What's up? Go ahead. I don't know what did you say? You cut out.
Guys, it keeps cutting out. It keeps cutting out. I'm sorry, but I don't know if you heard me, but Eshan, you can pull up Tuscaloosa for the election.
We'll see. I'm not sure. I'll be driving back from Huntsville that day, so we're gonna see. I'm gonna try. It's a packed day, unfortunately, but we'll see. I'll let you know. Yeah, but thank y'all for listening to all these episodes, all the historical episodes. I know we had a lot of fun doing that. All the predictions, some of them wrong, some of them right. And yeah, we're here now. So thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for reading. Keep going to PB Political. We got forecast out. We got everything out there. We got TikTok, Myles and Madeline holding it down over there. And yeah, I guess, yeah, I'm Eshan Pokhrel.
I'm Michael Bodeker.
And I'm Myles the Gollop.
And goodbye.